Today we are going to start studying a new chapter called Quadratic Equations. Okay, Quadratic Equations is a very important chapter because in a lot of different other areas of mathematics, quadratic equations and linear equations are actually used as tools to solve the questions. You may not directly get a question from quadratic equations, but there is a possibility that in geometry you might solve a question wherein you might need quadratic equations. There is a possibility that in mensuration you might solve a question wherein you need quadratic equations. There is a possibility that you might solve a question in arithmetic progression and you might need a quadratic equation. So quadratic equations is a fairly important chapter. This entire piece which I have written here is a description of what the syllabus of class 10th quadratic equation says. Okay, I will put the link from where I have picked up the syllabus. This has been directly picked up from the CBSE website for this year. Okay, so this is the syllabus of quadratic equation, and this below this table is the complete syllabus of class 10th mathematics. Now if you look here, algebra is 20 marks, and algebra includes polynomials, it includes AP, it includes quadratic equations, and it includes linear equations. Okay, so this would be roughly 8 marks. Okay, quadratic equations would be roughly 8 marks, and sometimes because the concepts of quadratic equations are being tested through other chapters, you can say it might go up to 8 to 10 marks. So you can see it's almost 30 to 40% of the total algebra weightage of class 10th. Okay, but the concepts of quadratic equations are extremely important for you to understand. Now quadratic equations, linear equations, AP and polynomial, together all the four constitute roughly 20 marks in the overall syllabus. Okay, so let's start studying this one. I thought it is much better to understand what is the importance, what is the weightage, and what is the syllabus of class 10th quadratic equations before we actually start solving questions around it. Okay, let's get to some of the basics. Okay, we have studied a lot of these basics in polynomial chapter also. If you do not know the polynomial chapters, or if you have not seen the playlist of polynomial chapter, the link to the entire polynomial playlist is down there in the description. It's a very small playlist, roughly 40 to 50 odd questions or videos, and you can refer to the entire playlist. The link to the playlist is down there in the description. Okay, so what is a quadratic equation? A quadratic equation is something that has a degree 2. Okay, degree 2. What is degree 2? Degree 2 means the highest power. Okay, the highest power of the variable should be 2. Okay, it should not be more than 2, it should not be less than 2. To give you an example, if I write x square plus 2x plus 1 is equal to 0, if I write this as quadratic equation, let me call this equation as q1 of x. Okay, if this is my quadratic equation, the highest power is 2, so this is a quadratic equation. Okay, this is a quadratic equation. If I write another equation which is q2 of x, which is equal to say x cube plus x square plus x plus 1, if I put this as another equation, now you see the highest power is 3. The highest power is 3 means this is not a quadratic equation. Similarly, I will give you another example. If it is x plus 1, now this is a linear equation. Okay, this is also not a quadratic equation because the power is not 2. Similarly, if I write another quadratic equation, which is another equation which is x square plus 2 root x plus 1. Okay, remember this is also not a quadratic equation because you cannot have rational powers in a quadratic equation. So what is the standard format of a quadratic equation? How do you write a quadratic equation? The standard format of a quadratic equation is f of x is equal to ax square plus b of x plus c, and a, b, c can be anything. It could be positive or negative, but a cannot be equal to 0. Okay, so this is the standard definition of a quadratic equation, that a cannot be equal to 0. So we've understood what is a quadratic equation. Cool, let's now proceed. If this is a quadratic equation, then a quadratic equation has two roots. What What does it mean? What it actually means is, if I write a linear equation, say x plus 2, okay, if I write a linear equation x plus 2 and I ask you to find the zeros or roots of this equation, you will equate this to 0. Okay, you will say x plus 2 equal to 0, and hence x equal to minus 2, and minus 2 is a root of the equation. So a linear equation will have one root, and a quadratic equation will always have two roots. Now let me give you an example. If I have x square minus 2x plus 1, if this is a quadratic equation which is equal to 0, I will find two roots, and the two roots will be x minus 1 whole square equal to 0. This is x minus 1 whole square, and the two roots are both same, 1 and 1. Okay, so a quadratic equation, if you solve it, it will always have two roots. Okay, a quadratic equation always and always has two roots, and those two roots are denoted by alpha and beta. Okay, so I told you that quadratic equation has two roots, and those two roots are denoted by alpha and beta. So if you look at this example which I gave you, x square minus 2x plus 1, here alpha is also equal to 1, and here beta is also equal to 1. Okay, so the two roots are same, alpha equal to 1 and beta is equal to 1. Another very important aspect of a quadratic equation is, if you have to write a quadratic equation, you can actually write it in terms of the roots also, which is x minus alpha multiplied by x minus beta should be equal to 0. Now this is another format of a quadratic equation. Okay, if you solve this quadratic equation, you will get x square minus of x into alpha plus beta plus of alpha beta is equal to 0. Okay, so these two are actually exactly same, but two different formats or two different styles of writing a quadratic equation. But for class 10 syllabus, the most important format is this one, which is ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Okay, so what all have we studied till now? We have studied that what is a quadratic equation. It's an equation that has the degree as 2, which means highest power of the variable should be 2. We have studied that a quadratic equation has two roots. Okay, a quadratic equation has two roots. These two roots are always denoted by alpha and beta. There are some other formats of writing a quadratic equation which are mentioned over here, and that's all. So there are these 3 or 4 main concepts. Okay, and there are some other concepts which we'll take up in the next video. So please do like, share, comment and subscribe, and keep watching this channel for more syllabus of class 10th mathematics that will be covered here.